I still remember we just met at open air theater and we're like, okay, you sing, I play violin. Uh, why don't we just gather a few more people and we'll start a band? The very first day when we came to class, board was broken. We went to Avenue Road and picked up the board all the way. So if you're seeing a new board in your classrooms,
Yeah.
it was our batch. On the first day, the seniors would come in and they would prank us, like they would act as professors or teachers. And I interned at Texas Instruments. We were in fact designing everything from scratch. Currently, I'm pursuing my master's at the University of California, San Diego. Running your own band is like running your own company. We always wanted to have our original music. Spite of hearing it n number of times, I still get goosebumps when I listen to the last part.
Namaskara, and welcome to another episode of UVCE Chronicles, an initiative of the UVCE Graduates Association. I'm Adrian, and I'll be your host for this episode. Over the past couple of years, I think semiconductors, fabs, and chip design have become buzzwords that are hard to ignore. Our guest for this episode, Suhas Chethan from the 2018 batch of Electronics and Communication Engineering, began his journey in the semiconductor industry. He also shares a unique connection with music and is part of 8 GB RAM, which is one of UVC's most well known bands. So, Suhas, we're glad to have you on the show. And at Chronicles, we believe that nothing beats a first hand introduction. So, can you tell our listeners more about yourself and your days at UVC?
Hey, Adrian, thank you so much for the introduction. So, a little bit of myself. I was born and brought up in Bangalore, and I joined UVC in 2014 in the Electronics and Communication Engineering. After which, we started the band. I think we started the band somewhere after 6 months of 2014. I mean, when we started in August, right? So I think it was sometime in Jan of 2015. And then from there, we have come a long way in terms of where we were and we started or what we intended to do initially. And in the meantime, I gained a lot of interest in the electronics industry and electronics in general. And later on, I interned at Texas Instruments as an analog layout engineer. Post that, I continued my work there for 4 years, and currently I'm pursuing my master's at the University of California, San Diego. Yeah, that's a little bit about me.
All right, that's lovely to hear. So, how was UVC back then?
How was UVC back then? That's a nice question because I think very recently there was a grant and a lot of money was given, and so a lot of renovation happened. But back then it was pretty old, and the first day I came to college, I was like struck for a moment because it was very beautiful. Let's be honest. Like when I came into college, I got a very good vibe, the nature in the campus and the old buildings and all of that. It was a very beautiful experience. And back then, I think even now it's the same. Most of the students are involved in all of the organizations, and we kind of run most of the things that are happening at college. UVC back then we just had one very small canteen. I think right now there is this Nandini parlor and all these fancy things that came up.
Yeah, we
But
also have a new canteen building, but it's not yet commissioned.
oh, awesome! So a lot of new things right now, but back then it was just one small canteen and that open air theater. And I think a lot of our lives have revolved there. We used to play a lot in college. Yeah, like half the time we had a lot of time, so we spent a lot of time with friends and hanging out. And yeah, it was fun. But the very first day when we came to class, Actually, the board was broken.
I see.
By the board, I mean, yeah, the blackboard.
Uh-huh.
So we came in and we're all shocked, like the board is half cracked and it is looking very bad. And then later on, so all my life I've been in studying at private colleges or private schools. So coming to a government institution was a, how do I say, put it? Like it was a different learning for me because I came here and realized that if you need something, it's you who have to make the change here. And then we went and kind of told that the board is broken, but nobody did anything. And then we realized that, okay, it's us who have to take up the initiative. So we kept pestering the HOD back then, and we're like, okay, we want a board. And finally, he gave us some money,
Mm.
and we ourselves went to Avenue Road, and we were, I think, what, 10 people that time. We went to Avenue Road and picked up the board all the way, and we came back to college, and yeah, that's how I think the first year board was fixed.
Oh,
So if you're seeing a new board in your classrooms,
yeah.
you know it was our batch.
Oh wow. Okay, I didn't know this, but I definitely can see a lot of points where we can relate. We have this new R&D lab, Marvel. So
Yes,
most of the things there we do ourselves. So we procure the components, and it's quite fun also. I think UVC really does, give you that sense of responsibility at a very young age.
definitely.
All right. So after
Yes.
after your days at UVC, we will come to 8 GB
Hmm.
RAM later. So
Uh-huh.
after you graduated, you landed a position as an analog layout engineer at
Yeah.
Texas Instruments. So
Yes.
could you tell us more about your role? What were you involved in, and your experience like working at a global semiconductor company?
Okay. So basically, what an analog layout engineer does is they create masks or layout designs for for schematics. So how do I put it? So for instance, if you have like a very in a very basic sense, if you've designed a common emitter or common collector amplifiers in your college, right? You would have done that in some of the courses.
Yes.
So that is basically just paper drawings of circuits, right? That has to be put out in terms of semiconductors. So it has to be fabricated, and we need to create masks or mask drawings for those things, right? So a layout engineer is responsible for creation of all these mask designs and is also responsible for making sure that what is fabricated works according to what is intended in the original design. So that is the major role of analog layout engineer, I would say.
Suhas,
And
for the
huh.
listeners who may not know, what is a
Mhm.
mask in semiconductor?
Okay, so what is a mask? So you've heard of transistors, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so a transistor on paper, when you draw it, is just a symbol. But on a semiconductor chip or a wafer, a transistor is made up of multiple layers. So you can think of the semiconductor wafer as a multi-storied building,
Okay.
okay, and where each floor corresponds to a certain material. So the ground floor can be a p-type substrate, and after that you might have some sort of doping which can create diffusions, and the next floor is the gate itself. So what you draw on paper is entirely different as to what gets fabricated. So positioning of these masks on the semiconductor wafer, like telling where exactly the p-type doping should be, where exactly the n-type doping should be, and how do you connect each of these transistors, in what sense, in what fashion, that is called a mask. So when you have a mask, it is basically like a guided tool for the fabrication unit to use it to pattern all of these different floors that I just mentioned. So they'll manufacture the ground floor first. And when they're manufacturing the ground floor, they look at the mask that we have given. And the mask is nothing but a glass plate with patterns on it of what we have drawn. So wherever we have told them to dope a certain type of material, that is where they'll go ahead and dope. So they don't know the design. It is us who will dictate where it will be. So that is a mask. It's just a guided a glass plate for the fabrication unit to fabricate in the right way.
Ooh, that's quite interesting. As you said,
Yeah,
when in our undergraduate days, we are mostly exposed only to either the circuits or just a single transistor view,
that's right.
and yeah, it is like quite mind-boggling how intricate and the scale of things in the semiconductor world. So,
Yes.
like how was the work culture at TI? Like, what was it like?
Yeah. So the work culture at TI was amazing. uh, Majorly because of the kind of people that are there. Most of them are very nice, very sweet, and I think that's what you expect from a company. Like you want to go there and be able to connect to people,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of them are uh, very interesting to work with. So they have a lot of knowledge in that field. So it becomes very much fun to learn from these people. And the other thing about TI is it is not a very huge organization where they recruit like a lot of people. So it is quite limited in the number of people that we have, and they also base emphasis not just on work or yeah, not just on work, but we also do have a lot of cultural activities, and we have a huge sports complex on campus. So it was quite nice working at TI, and the entire culture was beautiful. And we were getting to work on very good technologies. So usually you might have heard people say that a lot of good work happens in the US, and in whatever branches are there in India are just following that. But at TI, we were not doing that. We were, in fact, designing everything from scratch. So that gave me an entire picture of what is happening in the semiconductor industry and how they price products or how they manufacture these things. And it kind of gives you a new perspective because that is a very different world.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start to do this, you'll realize that how small these components are. Because when I started my internship, I was working in, say, like 0.15 microns or 0.16 microns. And that is like a very, very small dimension.
Yeah.
And now things are going even smaller in terms of nanometers. So the thing that you always heard, okay, this transistor has billions, I mean, this IC has billions of transistors in it. That is what you get to work at TI. So it was a very proud feeling that you are actually doing real world innovation. And it was very nice that way.
Oh wow. It seems like a quite a holistic experience in some sense.
Yes, yes.
So what prompted the move to move on from TI and then pursue an MS?
Um, so I wanted to get into the design field,
Mm-hmm.
the basically circuit designs and mixed signal design or whatever. So that was actually compelling me to do a higher degree because I realized I needed that knowledge. And yeah, like I was on the layout side, so I wanted a little more knowledge, and I wanted to be able to design my own things. So which is why I chose this.
Mm-hmm.
And another major reason is someday in the future, maybe I want to have my own company. So I probably want to start something in the design space.
Oh wow.
Um, so this would have, I mean, the reason I chose this is because I thought this will be a good help to me in terms of the knowledge, in terms of contacts, networking, and because a lot of professors here run their own companies. So being among such people might inspire me and give me the kind of knowledge and skill set to start my own sometime. And as you know, India is emerging as a semiconductor base now in the world, and they're investing a lot as well.
Yeah.
So I felt, okay, it's the right opportunity to get into that space.
Okay, right. So, yeah, definitely because right now the Ministry of Electronics they're having the India Semiconductor Mission, so they're really encouraging manufacturing here in India. Do you feel like say your industry experience at TI? helped you pick a field for your masters?
Yes, definitely, definitely. I think Achad, I really value what I got from TI
Hmm.
because not a lot of people can get that exposure. And usually, I'm not generalizing, but usually it's like once you start in a particular industry, you usually tend to be in that place.
Right.
And I was fortunate enough to be in the right place at that point of time. But yes, that did definitely encourage me or inspire me to do my masters and be in the same industry.
I see. So, you know, most of the time when you think about, say, doing a master's abroad, I think most of the students have uh, little to no clue about how to go about it. So could you sort of demystify the admissions process to University of California, San Diego?
Okay, so it is not a very complex process. To be honest, the process is a little simpler, but I think the journey is a little more complex. For instance, if you want to do a master's in India, you'll go ahead and write a gate exam, and that is a complex process because you have to prepare whatever you studied for 4 years, and you have to give an exam, and the competition is very high out there. But in the US, for any university for that matter, uh, to get into any university, you just have to take up this exam called GRE, which is Graduate Record Examination. That is based mostly on mathematics and English. Uh, and you have to kind of, and you mostly will score well if you prepared well. And so since we are going to the US, they check if you know English, and you have to give another exam called TOEFL or IELTS. So one of these to just prove that okay, you know English well. And it's always good to score well in these exams because um, when you go to your masters, in case you want to do some sort of assistantships, they look at your TOEFL score and how your speaking scores and all of that. And if you've scored well, it's easier to be in the I mean, as an assistant to your prof. So that kind of helps. So any university for that matter, they are, nowadays actually the trend is changing. They're not asking for these GRE scores, but they are asking for TOEFL and IELTS. But on a general basis, universities ask for GRE score, TOEFL score, and there is this thing called statement of purpose. So the statement of purpose is basically a two-page document which describes your journey from start to end. So you can start off by saying why you were interested in this field. So, for instance, if you're going into the electronics field, you'll say, okay, in my PUC, I was doing this, and this got me interested in electronics, and later I picked electronics in my undergraduate days. And then you go ahead and start speaking about all the different projects you did in your undergrad, all the internships you did, and if you learned something by yourself, and what has inspired you to be in this field, and what is the work that you have done, and if you have any papers, publications, and that should be included as well. So they ask for the statement of purpose, and in that you also include why you want to go to this particular university, and so you might like the coursework there and the professors who are studying there, sorry, professors who are teaching there. And so that is your compelling reason to say, okay, this is the coursework is very good and the profs are really good, so this is the reason I want to join a university. So the SOP is basically um, it's basically like an interview which they take, but it's a written thing, and you have to just submit. I think it's a two-page or a one-page, depending on the university. And they are, of course, ask for your resume, and you have to just include what all projects, undergrad projects you've done, your work experience if you have any, and internships, and so on. So that is the resume and the SOP. You also need letter of recommendations. So it's always good to get uh, good letters of recommendations from our professors in the undergraduate universities. So from UVC, if you have worked with someone for your final year project, or before that, if you have worked with them for some sort of projects, you can ask them for a letter of recommendation. And if you have worked somewhere or if you have interned somewhere, maybe your manager can write you a letter of recommendation saying, okay, so and so has worked with me and he has done so and so, and he or she is a good fit for your program, and I think he's very dedicated, and so on. So you need a good letter of recommendation, and I think this is it. So you just need GRE and TOEFL scores, your statement of purpose, your resume, and 3 to 4 letters of recommendation, which should support what you have written in your statement of purpose. So that they know you're not lying. So you can write anything you want in the statement of purpose, but it has to be supported by someone, and that is basically your professors or your managers or people you worked with, and so on. So yeah, this is the entire process. And once they get all these, they'll take a look at your profile and say, okay, this guy is good, or this person needs a little more improvement. And I think depending on the general scores or your profile in general, and they will either admit you or not. So this is the basic process, I would say.
Okay, so I believe you moved to the US quite recently. So how has the experience been? The travel, and obviously, how are you settling in now at your new university?
Yeah, it is quite good here. The professors are pretty famous in their own fields, and it's nice to be learning from such distinguished people. Of course, your classmates and all of that matter as well. So, most of them are very nice and are eager to learn, and there is a nice learning environment, and I think that's the most important thing in any university. You need to have a good learning environment so that you also become like them. So it's been good so far, and it's been a little how would I put it? It's too much to absorb as well. Such a huge campus and very good classrooms. I think you'll start to value all of this after you study at UVC, because you realize the value of everything that you've been given.
Hmm.
So yeah, so it's pretty overwhelming in terms of the campus size, because it's huge. Like you walk anywhere and it's the campus, and you don't know where it starts, where it ends, and they have every possible department.
Right.
So yeah, so it is a very different feeling, and it's good. It's good to be part of this environment as well.
So what's the class strength on average?
So again, so when you come to a master's course, you're usually it's very flexible in terms of what classes you take.
Okay.
So if you take a proper graduate level course, by graduate level I mean a proper master's course, there will be around 40 to 50 people.
Okay.
But if you take a course that is an upper level undergraduate course, so that can be an advanced topic, but it can be for both undergrads, and it can act like a base for your masters as well. So if you take such courses, it's usually 80-ish to 100-ish, because there are undergrads in it as well. But yeah, on average, if you're only doing your masters and masters courses only, if you're taking, I think 40-50 is a good number to expect.
Okay, so that seems like a good faculty to student ratio, because you typically see, uh, videos online, be it MIT Open Courseware, or say classes at Stanford, and you see these huge classrooms, like auditorium style classrooms. So I'm glad to know that the faculty to student ratio is quite good. Uh,
Yes.
yeah. So I think now it's time to come to something maybe the listeners have been waiting for. So you're a violinist, and obviously you play in the band 8GB RAM, which you started in your undergrad, as you told.
Hmm.
So how did the name come about? How did you guys start? Like, please do tell us more.
Yeah. So when I was in my first year, I just before I came to UEC, I had a very little band experience, I can say. So I had been in a band, and when I came to UEC, I wanted to start my own. And as you know, in UEC, I don't know if it's that these days, but back then, on the first day, the seniors would come in and they would prank us, like they would act as professors or teachers and scare us off, and then they'd tell us we are your seniors and so on.
Oh yes,
So
that's still there.
awesome. That's nice to know. Yeah. So the seniors had come in on the first day and they were like kind of helping us through, saying, okay, we'll help. And that's one of the most beautiful parts of UVC, that you have your immediate seniors, or even all of them, in fact, willing to help you. They'll tell you what to do. And it is very nice to have that environment at college. So yeah, when they came in the first day, I approached one of the people and said, okay, is there some music club or something? And then he said there is no music club, but I do know one person who sings and all of that. And he put me in touch with him, but unfortunately he was very busy in his final year thesis and internship and whatnot. So he gave me another contact of a singer, and he's Raghavendra, so he's the present vocalist for our band. And I still remember we just met at open air theater, and we're like, okay, you sing, I play violin. Why don't we just gather a few more people and we'll start a band? And back then we still didn't have a name or anything, but we just said, okay, fine, like let's start off. And slowly we added more people, and then Sanjay was there. He's a present keyboardist, and he was he was with me since school, so I knew him from a long time, and he used to play the keyboard. And we're like, okay, so me, Raghavendra, and Sanjay, like, okay, let's start off a band. We started putting on a lot of people, and actually, the first show we did, I think we were so we intended to have 8 people, and actually, that is one of the major reasons we're called 8 GB RAM, because we always used to have 8 people when we went on stage. And that was a huge number on stage because the stages are not designed for such a lot of number of people. So,
Was there a reason
ye-
you emphasized on the number 8?
yes, yes, that is the reason. So, back then, I think all of these phones were coming with 8 GB RAM and all of that. We thought, okay, let's not have some very serious name. Let's keep it fun, and we wanted people to know that we were engineers as well. So that is how the name 8 GB RAM came up. And the first show, we went on stage with, I think, 3 keyboardists, one female drummer, one tabla, one violin, one guitar, one vocals, and we were like massive on stage. I think we were more than 10 people on stage.
Oh
And this was
wow.
at BMC Medical College, and it was a total mess. Even now, we don't look back, we don't look at those videos because it was so bad. And that was our first experience, actually, like our first show, and how we got all of the people. And but it was nice to have Raghavendra and Sanjay in the process, because we were all kind of like-minded, and we wanted to have a band of our own and play music and just enjoy, basically, like just create good music and enjoy. So that is what we were aiming at.
Oh, and create good music you did, because man, it's really lovely to hear all the songs you put out there. I think your most recent release was Waterfall. So can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so we didn't want to be any normal band and just play covers of different songs and all of that. And we always wanted to have our original music. So that is when we decided, okay, let us write a song and let us kind of compose one. That is when we all sat together, and that is after the first show. Basically, we sat down and we're like, okay, so let us write this song. And we all brainstormed, and Raghavendra had some very brilliant insights into music, because he was very knowledgeable in his field. And he came up with all of the main structure. And Sanjay and I worked on a lot of music in the background and how to get this out. That is when Waterfall came up initially. Initially, it was a little messy, but then I think over time it matured into a very beautiful song. And I think that is one of our favorite songs as well. just because of the feel it gives. It's a very positive song. It has no lyrics. It's basic. It's called a tarana. So it's like the whatever we are singing is the words of a tabla. So it was beautiful in that way, and the music is. And the reason we called it waterfall is because of the flow it has. We intended it to have a, so when you see a waterfall, it's not just a plunge, right? It is the entire river flowing, and then suddenly at one point it drops. So that was the intention. That if you notice the song in the end, it goes to another level, and that even now, in spite of hearing it n number of times, I still get goosebumps when I listen to the last part because it gives a very very good feel, and that is what we wanted to do to the audience as well. We wanted them to enjoy, even though they don't, because it's very difficult to impress audience with original music, because if you've never heard a song and if you're hearing it for the first time, it's very rare that you'll enjoy it. But wherever we played waterfall, and the crowd loved it, and that is what was a fuel to us. It kind of motivated us to write more and more songs and keep the crowd engaged.
Right. Yeah. Waterfall definitely. Waterfall is just one among many in your music repertoire, and I think the listeners definitely should go check out 8GB Ram's YouTube channel. Quite a few videos are posted there. So, how do you
Yes.
manage to keep in touch? After graduating from college.
Oh, yes. So that was actually getting tougher and tougher. In fact, to be very honest, running your own band is like running your own company. So it has a lot of it. I think people only see the final show and they're like, wow, but it requires a lot of effort in the back end, and you need like-minded people. So I think from the start till the end, if you notice, it was me, Raghavendra, Sanjay, and later on, I got one of my colleagues from TI to join, and there was Sanjay's friend Lavin, who's the drummer, and we've had people come in and go out, and it is very very difficult to get everyone on the same place, because some of us might be extremely motivated to make good music and to put it out there, but it might not be the case with everyone. So it was a lot of effort getting everyone in place, and uh, getting them to practice as well. So that was pretty tough, I would say, because it is not very easy uh, to run a band, and especially after graduation, I think most of us became very held up in our work and everything. But I think music is what kept us all together at one point or in one place, and we kind of said, okay, see, we understand that this might or might not become a career for us, but at least let us do what we did at college and what we did, what we loved. So we said, okay, let us take part in competitions when possible. And actually, after graduation, we went on to a lot of out of Karnataka places and performed. So that we, I told you, right, it's kind of a fuel to us, and it's like a positive feedback. Every time you do well and people respond, it gives you more fuel and you want to do more. So that kind of kept us running. So I would say it takes a lot of effort after graduation to keep in touch and to keep the band running. But in our case, it was tough, but relatively less tougher because we were all motivated to be in the band and to make it bigger and all of that. So now, of course, it's tougher because we are all in different countries. But I would say when we were all at Bangalore, we ensured we practiced at least once in a week or once in 2 weeks, made some good music, take part in competitions, or go and perform outside. That's what kept us running.
Wow, that's really nice to hear, and I definitely wish the entire team all the best. Thank
Thank
you,
you so much.
Suhas. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Chronicles. You really, truly been a lovely guest, and it's been quite interesting to hear your perspectives on various things, be it your work at TI, your MS in the US, and obviously 8 GB RAM. So we wish you all the best for all your future endeavors.
Thank you so much, Adrian. Thank you so much. I enjoyed being on this show as well.
A huge thank you to all our listeners for tuning into this episode. Feel free to reach out to us on Instagram, that's at Vision UVCE, or drop us an email on campus at uvcega.org. We shall definitely meet again for the next episode. Until then, do stay tuned to UVCE Chronicles.